Hello and welcome to this week's sentiment analysis. I'm Robert. Let's get into the charts because this is a fascinating week. We can see on the chart looking at the daily for Euro USD. Monday went rather slow. The bears had the market. But Tuesday through Friday, the bulls took off and ran wild. They really did a number. But Friday is an interesting story. Friday, the bears pushed back hard, but the bulls still ended the week ahead of the market. But that might be a prelude to what's coming Monday, where the bulls pushed back so hard on Friday, the market may actually go downward on Monday. And there is evidence of that in the order book itself. When we look at the buy side of the order book, we can see a lot of activity. All of the activity right now below the price line shows a huge amount of interest of getting back into the market at a lower price. That's important because when we start moving up to the higher time frames, it becomes even more relevant. For now, though, we have a problem that I want to demonstrate with my actual trades. Because we can see on the right-hand side, I have a lot of accumulations, some of which strictly from this week only, where I have accumulated my inventory drastically. But this doesn't actually go through and show the whole story. Because I've accumulated I've accumulated 8 positions. But let's get to my VPS. Looking at my transactions that I've done last week. The 8 days was last week's. So we'll take that out. Everything below the orange line is strictly from the previous week. So I've made 8 sells. Let's see. I made 7 selling positions last week, one of which was 26 days holding. So even though I traded positions, I actually only gained 1 net position to my inventory versus what I held the week before last. That dynamic, that give and take, that's where the profit lives. That's also where the losses can live. But we can see within this dynamic the significance of exactly what we are looking at in the market. So even though the chart clearly shows last week the bulls did wonderful, actual trading shows my stability within my own system. It compares to what we see on the daily. Okay, looking at the weekly and a better picture of the order book itself, we see a lot of things here that really is critical. First of all, the one thing that we need to see is right where the price is. The part of the order book above the price does not show buying activity as strongly as the part below the current price. That is critical. The order book itself is suggesting that the buyer interest is well below the current price level. So as we look at this, we can clearly see where pricing wise, where people's interests are. The market shows more pressure for price to drop again back into basically an artificial support where I've drawn on the screen, where we've been for the last 5 months. So that's a significant point to pay attention to when you're thinking about where to trade for next week. And if you're the kind of trader that only purchases on the weekends and then goes back to work, it can be very difficult to figure out what all this means in the market. Because when you're looking at the prices, we really do see a clear area on the chart that has a vested interest on where people want price to return to. The limit orders are quite well pronounced, more so than above the price line. But there's still more to the story, and we need to really look at that as well before we make any final decisions. Moving to the monthly chart and zooming out a little bit, we see where July ended green, we see where June ended red, and we see the order book as a whole for the monthly chart. We see the green line, which is the support level I have been tracking for quite a while. But most importantly, the order book below the green line. That has some interesting things in it that we need to be aware of. So let's focus on this section right here, where we have these 3 buy spikes literally just sticking out. This is, in my opinion, a clear indicator of a deeper long-term interest of where the larger buyers want the market to go. A proceeding downward drift. Whether or not we actually get there is a whole different discussion. But I think we need to focus on these for one simple reason. They are going to affect stop loss thinking. Because if you put your stop loss, say right where I've drawn on the screen, there's a reasonable level that you could get stopped out. I think it's much more difficult if you're looking for a long-term position with this kind of a market. If you're doing daily trades, this is not that important because you can just adjust based upon the daily. But if you're doing weekly trades, that is something you have to consider. And really, you have to look at the idea of putting your stop losses well below any significant spikes, just to make sure you have enough room for whatever unpredictable markets show up. And we already know that the market is capable of some very huge pushes in a single direction. So we have to take account for the worst case situation and really look at where the market might go for any kind of long-term trading. But I think personally, I think prices are going to go downward. And I think this region is going to be where they have been. I think last week's bullish run is going to get reversed, even if partially. There's just too much activity within the market itself on the order book level that clearly shows a reasonable expectation of this. But let me know what you think. Where do you think price is going to go? How has your trading been? Have you seen a one-sided push, or have you seen the same thing that I saw in my own trading? The market showing one direction, but I show constant back and forth motion in real trading. Share your thoughts and let me know. As far as next week, plan for the worst. That's all you can do. Don't try to chase the market. It just doesn't work. If you like this kind of content, please like, share, and subscribe. Please help me grow this channel. Thank you for watching.